Have you ever been sitting down playing your console wishing you could just move and your fighter would move? You know, like those arcade cabinets where the chair would move and weave as you moved the flight stick. Well, apparently that wasn't just a pipe dream that we had as kids. Apparently, someone got the idea to make this a reality. And no, I'm not kidding. May I introduce you to the Nintendo Super Chair? Yeah, I know, leave it to Nintendo. I know, this thing looks like a rickety little chair, but this thing was real, and it worked. So if you have a minute, sit back and chill out while we go into the Nintendo Super Chair. Now, Nintendo's no stranger to having, odd devices. Some made by Nintendo and some not so much, and this one, well, is up there on the weird scale, I think. Honestly, this thing was so out there and so rare that I honestly could not find much on it. Other than it looks like it may have been made by a company called Sangharam Trading Company, which I think I butchered, and was intended to be used with the Nintendo Entertainment System, Genesis, and apparently home computers as well. Now, the unit was released and distributed both in Japan and in the United States, primarily as a prototype unit that was intended to, well, ditch the D-pad on your controller in favor of using your body movement to move your character on the screen. Yeah, I know, right? This would be like taking an afterburner cabinet that basically moved with you and throwing it in your living room. I mean, the sheer idea of it is just mind-blowingly cool to me. I kind of really dig it. The big questions are, why is this thing so rare? How did it work? How the heck did you even put the thing together? I'll admit, these are really good questions, and I think we should dig in and take a look and see what we can figure out. So, well, let's dig in. Now, the first thing you would notice when you open the box, you know what? Scratch that. I want you to look at the label on the front of this. This is quite possibly the most epic thing I've ever seen on the front of a generic prototype box. Little Susie came to play, and she ain't having none of this game's crap whatsoever. It just looks amazing to me. I love it so much. Alright. Now, let's get into this thing. This thing actually came in a nice canvas-style bag with some pretty solid handles. Now, given this came out in 1988 or 1989, from what I could gather, I suspect that this really did have to be a prototype unit, because if you were going to mass produce something like this in that day and era, you probably would have used nylon bags. It just would have made the whole thing cheaper. Inside, the chair was in a few pieces actually. The main seat folds out and kind of snaps into place. The base gets laid down on the floor and the handles get lifted up and locked in place with a few thumb screw like things, and then you slot the chair into the main post. Now, the seat itself actually had a footstand that sticks out from it. This was adjustable for, well, a good number of heights, and I know you're asking, why do you even have this? Well, you put your feet up on this to allow you to be a little bit more unstable in the chair, which is kind of the whole point, right? In this position, you can lean left, right, forward, and back to basically adjust how you're moving on the screen, right? And interestingly enough, forward and backward are reversed much like a normal flight stick controls. And when you think about it, that makes a lot of sense. You see, the reason I think this makes sense will kind of come into play a little bit later, but let's put a pin in that and kind of move forward to one of the other big questions. How's this thing reading your movements at all? Well, that comes down to the electronics inside of the base of the unit itself. You see, they essentially took an NES controller and wired it right into the chair. The D-pad motions were wired to the movement itself, and the handles you set up were for the A, B, start, and select buttons, with A and select being on one and B and start on the other. This essentially made it a controller you could technically use with, well, any game you wanted to. However, most people who had one tended to think it was meant more for shooters than any other game type. See, told you we'd come back to this. And I tend to agree. The kind of motions you could do with this would lean more towards the kind of interaction, especially with the forward and back being reversed on the seat itself. This would give you the feel of being in a cockpit. More so than normal, even if the NES really didn't do that much with first person in its scrolling shooter games. It just wasn't very good at handling that at the time. Why then didn't this thing take off? and end up in almost every shooter fan's house. Why? Why didn't it? Well, I imagine if this thing had gone to market, it probably would have been close to $60 to $100. That's just a start, given its construction. Secondly, the movement apparently was kind of hard to use. You would really have to lean into it to get your character to move around on the screen, basically making it slower to use than a standard D-pad. This means if it had come out, it likely wouldn't have been very well received due to how finicky it was and how far you had to lean to get it to activate in any given direction. However, what did you guys think of this one? Did any of you ever see this thing before, and if so, where? Did any of you ever get to mess with any of the prototypes that hit the States? If so, definitely leave me a comment. I would absolutely love to hear stories on this thing. However, for now, thank you so much for making it this far in the video. If I could ask you for one more favor, please hit the like button. And if you haven't, follow the channel. That helps me out an absolute ton, guys. Till next time, though, have a great rest of your day. Until we meet again, happy gaming!